Hi, welcome back. In this video, we are going to discuss one important point, that is using transactional annotation in service class. So basically, programmers or especially the beginners may use transactional annotation in service class to make a service class methods as a transactional. So actually, we don't have to use transactional annotation in service class because by default Spring Data JPA will make all the CRUD methods in JPA repository are transactional. For example, we have post repository interface. It extends a JPA repository interface, and JPA repository basically provides a CRUD methods for a provided entity. In our case, we have post entity. Okay, by extending JPA repository, we will get CRUD methods for a entity. Alright, and all the CRUD methods by default in JPA repository are transactional. For example, JPA repository interface has an implementation class called SimpleJPRepository. SimpleJPRepository is a default implementation of JPA repository interface. So this is the internal source code of SimpleJPRepository class, which internally implements JPA repository interface, and it internally extends a JPA repository. Alright, just remember this point. Simple JPA repository class is the default implementation of JPA repository interface, and simple JPA repository class annotated with transactional annotation. It means that all the methods the JPA repository provides by default are transactional, and we don't have to add transactional annotation in our service class. Okay, because we are using JPA repository methods inside the service class, and all the JPA repository methods are by default transactional. Alright, understood why we don't have to use transactional annotation in service class? Because simple JPA repository has already annotated with transactional annotation. And so look at here, read only true. So it provides a default read only configuration as a true for all the read methods, and for other methods you can see here a plain transactional annotation is added for delete and save. Alright, and update. For all other methods, they have used transactional annotation. For read methods, they have used a read only equals to true flag. Alright, I hope you pretty much understood why we don't have to use transactional annotation in service class. Alright, so JPA repository CRUD methods are already transactional by default, so we don't have to add transactional annotation in service class to make service class methods transactional. Well, if there are any specific scenarios where you want to handle the transaction, then you can obviously add transactional annotation to to make methods as a transactional. Alright, I hope you pretty much understood why we don't have to use transactional annotation in service class. Alright, great.